Zoom link.
Did you get an announcement on the recording, Betsy?
Yes, I did.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yep. I think I'll just wait 1 more minute and then I'll go forward, okay?
Wonderful.
I love to hear those that ringing of people coming in. Okay, well, I think I'll get started, and I'm sure people will continue to join us during these first few minutes of this NCLUDE seminar. My name is Betsy or Elizabeth Dalton. I am the co-leader of the professional development team of NCLUDE, and it's my pleasure to have you join us today. The other co-leader, Linda Planton-Yu, is also with us today, and Linda's going to be monitoring the chat box throughout this webinar. So as we go forward, if you have comments and questions about something, please feel free to put it in the chat. And if time allows, we'll come to those questions at the end of the session. So this session is the second in a series of two February sessions. The first one took place last week and was a reflection upon the NCLUDE Collaboratory, how it started and where we've come in the 3 years that we've been together. That session was led by Richard Jackson, who's here with us today. So Sean Bracken, who I know is planning to join us. And it was intended to provide a foundation for today's session, which is going to be a more interactive session. Today's session is one that we hope you will feel free to become involved with and to provide your input with. We do have 2 interactive times during this session that we'll be looking for your input. So we appreciate your being here, and we hope that you're going to enjoy this developmental session. I'd like to introduce the individual who will be leading the session today. His name is David Stinson, and he works as the director of the Learning Commons and Accessible Learning at Trinity Western University in British Columbia, Canada. And David has been involved with the International Collaboratory for Leadership in Universally Designed Education, which is what NCLUDE stands for. He's been involved with NCLUDE since the very beginning, and he was instrumental in the development of the NCLUDE aims and the NCLUDE value statements that you can find featured prominently on our NCLUDE website. And many of you received the links to those in your Zoom link invitation. David is experienced in guiding groups in the strategic decision-making process, and he developed the Stinson decision-making model, which he will be applying today as he works with us. And it is my great pleasure to introduce to you our presenter for today's session on shaping NCLUDE to meet your learning and research needs sustainably, Mr. David Stinson.
Well, thank you. Hopefully you can see the slides now. So thanks so much. It's a real privilege to be a part of this group. I'm always amazed at where people come from. This is truly a worldwide group, and we want it to be a group that I guess includes everyone, obviously, but it's just really interesting to me, the people that I've met through this and the things that are going on in different places in the world that I would never have known about had I not been a part of this. So the title is Explore for this presentation, because I think that's what we need to do as a group, to say, okay, what is it we want to do and how can we do that together? And so hopefully as we go through this, you'll have a chance to interact with others and talk about some of the things that we've been doing and we hope to do in the future. So it's been a progressive journey. As Betsy said, I was at the conference in Victoria where this was kicked off. I can't believe it was only 3 years ago. It seems like a lot of time has transpired since then. But I don't actually know how this evolved. Maybe I was told at one point, but I can only imagine. So I met Richard, Sean, and Aisha at the conference. And I imagine somewhere along the line, one of them had this idea that wouldn't it be great if, and then at some point there was this inspired conversation and they said, yeah, let's do this. So where we're at right now is that we're a 3-year-old organization. We're a volunteer organization. And I say that because that's actually a significant piece. We're not a business. We don't have an income stream. So we're a small volunteer organization, but we have big dreams. And so we want to talk a little bit about what that might look like as we move forward. A couple other things that we want to talk about is how can we include others? So part of this, the goal of this workshop is simply to invite others to become a part of this and to speak into the process. And then this last thing is kind of what are our next strategic steps? And I use the term strategic because there's all kinds of steps that we could choose. We want to choose the most strategic ones, the ones that will move us to where we want to be. So we have 2 conversations today that you can be involved in. The first one is who do we want to become in the future? And the second one is how do the goals that we've set for the next year move us toward our ultimate goal? So those are the 2 questions. And I need to give you some background because I think a little bit differently than most. I'm a little weird that way. And I don't think you'll kind of get the reason for the questions unless I give you some background. So in the year 2000, I was actually moved. I was the director of learning resources and still speak into I'm one of the directors of the Learning Commons. But I was moved into a wellness department, and it was an interdisciplinary thing that involved both the health and the counseling, but then it included the things that I was doing, the supports for academics, and then also recreation. So it was truly interdisciplinary, and it was a new thing, and it was definitely a little bit of a challenge for me because I didn't know anything about wellness. And so one of the things we were tasked with doing was writing a paper on who we are, how we operate, why we do what we do, and that sort of thing. So we had a couple good meetings and then everybody got busy. We forgot about it, but I was worried that we would be called on to present this paper at some point. So I began looking at wellness theories and ideas and trying to understand kind of what this was all about. The big question that I had was, how do I live well? And partly what was driving that was if I was asked by a faculty member or a student, Dave, how do you live well? What would my answer be? And I didn't have one. So part of what I was looking for was, how would I even begin to help people live well if I don't know myself? So it ended up with me thinking this through and creating a wellness model. And the essence of it is this: to live well, we need to make wise decisions that align with who we are. So first question, how do you make a wise decision? And then second question is actually, who are you? And how do you fit the wise decision with who you want to become and the person that you already are? And so that was kind of the origin, and I won't go into the model, but that's kind of the essence of what I came to. Now, I've been teaching nurses for 10 years, and I have a slide that has 2 questions on it, and it's trying to provide a context for thinking through wellness. And the first question is, who do you want to become? The second is, what do you need to do today to become who you want to be tomorrow? So it really is about direction. What's the direction that we want to go in? And there's never a straight line direction in terms of strategic planning. We can make it look like there's a straight line, but boy, the reality is we're all over the place, and we try this, we try that, some things fail, some things work, and so on. So for me, the term direction is really helpful. Just, we need to know kind of where we want to go, and how we get there is going to shift as we go. And then the idea of intentionality is all through the wellness literature. How do we intentionally move toward wellness? And so this actually fits with organizations. In 2013, I sat down with a friend of mine who's since become just a dear, dear friend, Mark Lee. And Mark is a professor of business at Trinity Western. He teaches all the strategy courses for business and for our MBA program. So he does the capstone courses, anything involved with strategy, that's Mark. And so when I sat down and explained the model to him, he actually saw it as valuable for businesses and organizations. And I was kind of surprised. I said, well, why would that be? Because I was thinking really only in terms of individuals. And his response surprised me and continues in some ways to make me think differently. He said, organizations are made up of people, and as a result, they reflect the people and processes of those who are part of the organization, which makes a lot of sense, but I hadn't thought about that. So as we think about NCLUDE and where we want to go, we can use some of the ideas that we might use for ourselves and apply them to our organization. So the way I think about it now is, who do we want to become? Who do we want to be as people? Each of us has our own kind of persona, the person that we are, all of that. But how do we come together to become an entity and to become, in a sense, a person or a personality within this global network that we want to create? And then the second one is, what do we need to do this year to become who we want to be in the next 10 years? And there's a set of stages that we probably need to think through. And this is strategy. If we don't add strategy to our big dream, it's just a fantasy as far as I'm concerned. So I have one more slide to explain, because I think it's worth thinking about. When we talk about identity and what's the identity of NCLUDE, there are kind of 2 sides of the same coin that I can't separate. We need to ask, who do we want to be, which is kind of the character piece, and that's reflected in the value statement that we have. And then what do we want to do? What do we want to accomplish as a group? That's reflected in the aims. And so as I listened to Richard and Sean last week, I was struck by the fact that it's us being together and doing things together that's going to be our identity. So we can't really separate the 2 of them, but often in organizations, you'll have a strategic plan and you have a value statement. And often the 2 don't meet. And that's where people and organizations often go wrong. So here's some things I was inspired by when I listened to Richard and Sean. We want to create a collaboratory. It's a center without walls that is accessible and available to all. What does that look like? How do we do that? That's a part of the conversation. We're very interested in the learner voice. all of us being learners. The design is shared, learning is social. That's not always the way it's thought of in different circles. They talked about a paradigm shift that has happened because of universal design and universal design for learning. It's a theoretical framework, and 10,000, if I got the numbers right, Linda, that 10,000 teachers were trained in universal design in Sweden. That's huge. What's happening in the world? Because part of our mandate, or what we want to do, is global in nature. UN mandates were identified as things that were connected to this. How do we connect with the UN? Do we connect with them? Does it make sense? Does it fit for us? Technological affordances. There have been significant advances in technology, in Zoom in particular, that I've seen and I could speak to, but that's a different conversation. Recent AI, the Dream Studio, text to visual kinds of things, those are huge things. How can we tie into those? Do they fit with what we're doing, and so on? How can we change our universities, cultures, and countries? What's our part? That was towards the end of the conversation. Putting it back to us. What do we do? What can we do that will move us forward? And then Richard talked about one person's perspective as being a stranger in a strange land, as a person with a disability. How do we change the land so it isn't so strange? So these are the kinds of things that I found very inspiring, and I began to think about and wonder, okay, what can we do? How do we move forward? So the first conversation is about who do we want to become? And I hope all of that background information will help you kind of figure out why I'm asking the question. And we have three key pieces to it that you can use to think about or go back to, and you can suggest new things too. So this is about creating things that we really see as valuable. Currently, we have a document called the NCLUDE Aims and the NCLUDE Values. So two documents there. And then we have Sean and Richard's presentation from last week, which threw out a bunch of ideas for us to talk about. So the first question we want to talk about is what really resonates with you in all of this? Because who we become needs to reflect who we are. And the second one then is what key aspects of our core identity are non-negotiable. So as we move forward, what things do we want to hold really strongly to? How we do certain things, that can shift, but there's core identity pieces that we want to hold to as we move forward in the next 10 years, let's say. And if we come up with something that we could do and it doesn't fit for who we are, then we probably don't want to do that. So that's what this idea of the core identities would be. So we're going to go into discussion now, and I'm going to hand it over to Betsy, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and we'll pick up the conversation after this part is done. So let me just stop sharing that. Okay, so it's over to you, Betsy.
Okay, thank you so much, David. So I'm going to share my screen now, and I am going to go to the Jamboard. So does everyone see the Jamboard now on their screen? The
Did you see the link?
You can see the link. You can't see the Jamboard itself.
Yeah.
Well, I am sharing my screen. Okay, so I'll just explain the Jamboard. And I just posted a link in the chat box, which is to a Jamboard, which is essentially the same thing as a something like Padlet or something like that. It's a tool where you can share your thoughts about the questions that David has just presented. And you'll find on the Jamboard, there are 3 pages that you can move through the arrows at the top of the board. And on the left of the Jamboard, there's a little sticky note. If you put your cursor over at the menu bar on the left of the Jamboard, you can select, you can click on a sticky note, and you can write in that sticky note what your thoughts are about the particular question that resonates with you. So I would invite folks now to go to that link, and I'm in the link now as well, and I'll just demonstrate to you.
Betsy, do you think you can share the link again in the chat?
I certainly can.
Thanks, Larissa. I was about to jump in and ask the same question.
Betsy, you may be able to bring up the board if you click on that link in your
Well,
Word doc.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll need to, everyone else needs to access it though, so we'll need that link in the chat function.
Exactly.
Here we go.
There it is. That's the link. I actually have the Jamboard up on my screen. I'm looking at it and I'm sharing my screen. So I'm not sure.
No, you've got the wrong screen. What we're seeing is actually just the link right now.
We're seeing your Word doc. You probably have to stop sharing and then go in again and share once your Jamboard is visible.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Now share again and see if you see, click on your Jamboard.
I will.
But that's okay, Betsy, because we have access to it in any event, so we're in.
There it is.
There you go.
Okay. Right. So this is the Jamboard, and you can see this is our main question. And at the top, you can move through the different pages on the Jamboard. I put a couple of extra pages at the end in case we run out of it. And the easiest way to work with the Jamboard is over here, move your cursor over. You can click on a sticky note, and in the sticky note, you can write your response to that particular question. So what resonates with you from the, from either the presentation or the aims or the values of NCLUDE. And one of the things that resonates with me is just the opportunity for international connections. So I'm going to put that in my Jamboard. I save that. And then go to the end of this, and you'll see that it's actually come up twice. So that's how you do the particular Jamboard. You respond to the questions. So you go to the first page and click on the sticky note and put your thoughts in here. You go to the second page and put your thoughts.
See, I'm not able to see the link. I don't know why. I saw it for a fraction of a second and then it's lost.
You're not able to see the link to the Jamboard?
No. Yeah, I can see it now. Sorry, I can see it now. It had gone up. Okay.
Okay. So we're going to about 5, maybe a few more minutes, depending upon how people respond to this, to give you an opportunity to go to the Jamboard and to go to the 2 questions and to add your thoughts. So this is a brainstorming opportunity. And then when things look like they're finishing up, we'll come back and we'll take a look at some of the comments that we put in together. So feel free to Jamboard and add your thoughts. And I see people are It's wonderful to see everyone's ideas going up on the Jamboard. We do have this additional page if you run out of room on that first page. Okay, I think we'll take another minute or so. Please don't forget to go to the second question as well, which is on the second page of the Jamboard. Who do we want to become? What do you think, Dave? Maybe just one more minute or so?
Sure. I mean, I think we can, what we would like to do as well is to talk a little bit about some of these. So it's very helpful to have all this writing here because we can go through it and kind of get back to it and kind of reflect on it. So I really appreciate everything written, but I'm wondering if some of you would like to, if you put your hand up, speak to kind of what really resonates with you and what are core pieces of who we need to become for us to continue to be the people that we need to be. So if you would like to share verbally, we'd be very interested in hearing your thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Do you want me to keep sharing my screen, Dave?
Yeah, I think it's, well, I have it up on mine too. I'm not sure how others are using it, but there's some really interesting thoughts. So maybe I'll go back to the first page. You know, someone has said, I feel UDL is the answer to inclusive education in a diverse country like India. Maybe there's others of you from another country that go, yeah, actually that fits for me. I think it fits for Canada. We have people in the north. I remember being in a conference where people in the north and various places don't actually have internet accessibility. And so that's one of the key things that the government's working on right now. There's all kinds of things that we could talk about. So in what way do you feel that UDL is a real answer for some of these things? Anyone would like to speak to that?
I can't see anybody.
That's because I'm still sharing my screen.
Can you hear me?
Betsy,
Yes.
Betsy, you can stop sharing right now because you
Okay.
can still be able to see your Jamboard.
Yes.
And then open your video if you want to be seen as you speak.
Yes, but I'm not able to see.
Yes, we have you on screen, Sujata.
I can't see it. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear and see you.
Okay. I'm not able to see anybody other than the Jamboard. Well, I made that statement that inclusive education in our country, which is really, really diverse, is the answer to our present national education policy, because the policy is focusing on leaving no one behind and focusing on all the marginalized children who do not have access to education. Also, you all must be aware that we are divided into a lot of fragments based on religion, based on caste, based on ethnicity, so on and so forth. I strongly believe that if from the very beginning, teachers focus on universal design for learning, all children in the class learn to appreciate this diversity, and that can pave the way for an inclusive society. Therefore, I feel that UDL should become an integral part of our pedagogy. We are all talking about it, but it's not yet being practiced. So we are at the nascent stage of implementing UDL in our course curriculum and in practice as well. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for sharing that. Actually, Linda is a great resource because she's been, excuse me, training teachers in Sweden. So Linda, if you want to speak to that, that would be really good. But you two should connect.
Yes,
Could
we
I
have
say
been trained by Linda and by Betsy and Susie Gronsel. We had a workshop with them. That was our beginning, I would say, in the field of UDL. And thanks to her that I'm here sharing this platform with all of you.
Absolutely. And can I say something?
Please do, please do.
Thank you. Because we have said it many times before that UDL as a concept is universal, but there are some contextual changes and differences within the school context and our policy documents and so on. And I believe that just talking from a European perspective or a Swedish perspective, I found that often when we talk UDL, we talk technology, and technology is very important, but even more important is how we view the student and the student's ability of learning, and how we see ourselves as educators, and how we relate to the student in order to make learning accessible for the student. And I can see when I lecture about UDL in Sweden. That's a perspective out of the first principle that I very much are working on, the way that we relate to our student, the way we make learning accessible in based on that. Because in Sweden we have, we don't have all technology, absolutely not, but all students have their own computers, and we have a lot of assistive tools. So that's not always the main issue in Sweden. I think it's more important to talk about how we connect with the students and how we see the student as an unique individual, and how we accept the individual, the student in its uniqueness. And from that, how we can work on our relationship with the students, how we see the student either as someone that is incapable or a student that is capable. Do you know, can you follow me what I meant?
Mhm. So one of the big things for NCLUDE then is really, it ties back into some of our goals, is how do we roll this out within our country, within our university. Those kinds of things are really important discussions, and knowing what Linda has been doing in Sweden and what is happening in India is really useful, and we can learn from one another. So thank you for that discussion. Someone here has put a heart on one of the stickies to seek out and promote opportunities for collaborative international pedagogy and research focused on the design applications. Somebody want to speak to research? How important is that in your perspective?
I'm never stuck for a word. But really what I'm going to do is I'm going to speak so that other people, I think, have an opportunity just to reflect while I'm speaking, because I know that there will be other colleagues who will want to come in on this particular area. I put the heart there. I don't know who wrote the sticker, so maybe it would be an opportune time for the person whoever wrote the sticker to jump in and to share their insights around that. I mean, I think from the outset, I've really been drawn to the nature of the fact that we know it works, I suppose, intuitively, but it's building that evidence base for what we know is really important in academic circles. It's vital that we do that. So it's not just hearsay, and it's not just repeating what we believe, but it's based on a factual research base. And I think in order for that to happen, the more that we can engage in both qualitative and quantitative approaches to strategies that embed universal design and universal design for learning, the more impactful it will be. And also that we have a space to share that research. And I think that was an element that we spoke about last time, David, that, you know, the potential for us to develop an international or transnational journal. I think that's really exciting, specifically in the areas of universal and universal design for learning. I'm going to stop right there, because it'd be great if the person who wrote that sticker would just come forward and share their ideas as well. Thank you.
Yeah, why don't I let that person go first, and then Linda has her hand up after that. So
Actually, may I speak?
yes, go for it.
Yeah, actually, I put it there, and I strongly believe that it is needed because not all countries have the same conditions and opportunities for people. For example, I'm from Turkey in the old terms, and in Turkey, unfortunately, we are not provided so much opportunities to grow after after master's I mean, if you want to do PhD, you have to have two things, either someone backing up you, or you have to be rich and do it in private universities. So we are not given a lot of research opportunities to go further. Now I'm living in the United States, and I'm a former CAST intern. So there are huge opportunities there, but since I'm not a citizen in the United States, I don't have like scholarship opportunities as much as the citizens of the United States or someone from a STEM field. So I cannot go further, but I'm very interested in international collaborations in research. I can do anything to contribute. I don't have to be the author, but I'm very interested in that. Thank you.
Thank you for speaking and putting the sticky note there. Linda, did you have your hand up or not really? I see it's down. So anyone else want to speak to research?
Only that it's an area that NCLUDE has talked about for
Sorry.
a long time. And we really want to expand that part of it. And the woman that just spoke before really articulated what we believe is the case, that people want to connect. And so part of what we'll be doing later on is to work on ideas for how that can tangibly happen, you know, how people and the focus that NCLUDE will take around that. So we appreciate your comment very much.
Why don't we move to the second page? What key aspects of our core identity are non-negotiable? Anyone like to speak to a sticky note on this page? These are things that we want to hold to really hard as a group. So any thoughts there that you would like to speak to?
Yes, can I speak, please? Do you hear me, please?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. First, thank you very much for your seminar. It's very important for me. And please forgive my spelling because it's it's the first time I speak in English. I used to speak in French. I'm so sorry. I'm from Morocco. Okay. My name is Nira Aisha. I'm from Morocco, and I would like to do research about the role of the culture in the society, the culture of a society to it means the impact of the culture of a society to guarantee an inclusive education. Because in Morocco, even if there is the opportunities, but people mind is an obstacle. Bon, it means that this culture sometimes ne permet pas une éducation inclusive.
It doesn't promote an education, an inclusive education.
Yes.
C'est excellent d'écouter votre avis, Zanira.
Merci infiniment.
It's good to hear from you.
Merci infiniment. Oui.
So I think one of the things that we need to think about is organizationally and structurally, how do we begin to impact the structures in our countries that will allow for inclusive education? I think that's kind of where you were going with some of that, and every country is different. And so we have to come at it from a country by country perspective, and hopefully you'll see that that's one of the goals that we hope to create within the collaboratory, this idea of having everybody connecting and being able to speak into or help one another as we do that. Any additional thoughts? Betsy, maybe we should move on to the next question. There are some additional thoughts and comments on the third page if you're interested. to just have a quick look at it. Somebody said, I like the shared leadership and responsibility. And again, that's how do we create that? How do we develop that? What does that look like? That's going to be one of our goals. So why don't we end the discussion at this point, and I'll hand it back to Betsy if there's anything you want to say, and then we'll go to the next question that we have.
I guess the only thing that I would say now is that we really appreciate all your thoughts. We'll be keeping these thoughts, and we'll be organizing them after the session, and we plan to send out a summary of both the Jamboard activity as well as the next activity to everyone that's been in attendance here today. So we'll be following up with you, and we really appreciate that. Thanks.
Okay, so let me just get back to where we should be here.
Yep.
Need to... Yeah, just... Okay, that should have us where we left off. The second conversation is, what are the next steps? And as I listened to Sean and Richard, this big picture question is kind of the organizing question for a lot of things going forward, at least in my mind. You're welcome to change it, to look at it differently. But here's the question that I came up with, and it is, how can a small volunteer organization, which we are currently, create a worldwide movement toward universal design and universal design for learning? How do we support that? How can we be initiators? All those kinds of things come into the picture. We are a very small volunteer organization, but we want to impact the world in a significant way. There are three principles that I think we need to keep in mind as we talk about the goals moving forward. Often there's a sequence that's important. And if we don't get the sequence right, things fail because we didn't think it through and we didn't start at the core or at the foundational level. So often we need to think about sequencing, and there's a strategy piece there of how do we roll this out in sequence. The second principle is that we're creating a foundation that we need to be able to build on over time. So if you think about a building, the foundation actually sets the size unless you're going to rebuild and create new foundations. And that's actually expensive. If you can create a really good foundation that provides a lot of flexibility and a strong foundation that can handle additional things, then we can be really smart about how we create this new organization. And then the third one is what I kind of call the flashlight principle. And the idea is the further away, the less clarity we have. So as my wife and I, Becky, we love to camp. And so we're often out in the dark, and I love a good flashlight actually, because it helps me to see a lot further. But really a flashlight helps you see the next few steps, the next maybe 10 feet in front of you. And you get a bit of an orientation of where you're going, but you don't know exactly what's around the corner. And so a lot of life is this way. We have to make decisions without knowing actually how we're going to get there. And so we need to be crucial or take really good strategic steps as we go. And so keep in mind that the further out, this idea of changing the world is a long way out. How do we do that? We start by small steps, and over time that will happen for us. So here are the current goals. And I hesitate to say current goals because these are goals that I have heard actually from day one in Victoria. And some of them are well on the way. And some of the other ones we're talking about. So they're not set in stone as far as I know, but these are the goals. So the first two are ongoing goals. First one is to create a website and social media tools to house key information and communicate around the world. As soon as NCLUDE started 3 years ago, this was one of the first things that I saw happen. Now, I wasn't a part of it because I'm not a techie and I don't know how to do that stuff, but others did. And that's a huge piece of who we are and our identity. And there's been ongoing developments. So kudos to all of you who work in this area. If you're interested in, basically, we're going to ask you to pick a goal to talk about and to throw your ideas in. But if you're interested in websites, social media, those kinds of things, this would be the goal that you want to go to. The second thing that was hot on the heels of a website was to provide excellent free professional development with a view to attracting membership and creating organizational credibility. Now, those are the last two, attracting membership and creating organizational credibility. Those are my thoughts, but the reality is providing free professional development in universal design is needed all over the place. And many of you have been parts of that. And so thank you for that. If you would be interested in talking about professional development, what that might look like and how you might be involved, that would be a good goal for you to go to. The third one, and these last three, I've heard these since day one at the conference. There is this idea to host or create an international conference for universal design. And so Sean and his group, I think, are floating this idea. So I've seen that in writing somewhere. And so that's been added in there. If you would be interested in being a part of the conference and thinking through what that might look like, would be really impressive. The first conference actually sets the stage for other conferences. So what needs to be in that first conference that would really help us as a group going forward? The fourth one is to launch an international journal of inclusive design and inclusive design for learning. I think there are some steps that have already been taken there. And so if you're interested in research and this international journal, that's the goal that you would want to move to. And then fifth, to identify a system of governance or a leadership profile that would allow for key roles that would strengthen, include, and allow for greater continuity and sustainability. So those are the 5 goals that we have. I kind of drew it out this way. And the idea for me is simply that they all overlap. The conference and the journal probably are very much connected, and same with the professional development, and then the website and media. All of those overlap. How do you tell people about a conference and about a journal and about professional development without a website and social media? And then all of that is kind of managed in some sort of a leadership structure, or distributed leadership is what Sean called it, I think. So how do we do that? So those are the 5 goals, but I see them as very much connected. So what are the next steps? These are the questions that in the groups you would be talking about. How does the goal you're working on move us toward our ultimate goal of creating a worldwide movement toward UDL? That's the first question. Second, given the goal you're discussing, what key elements need to be top of mind in order for us to move towards our larger goal of impacting the world? And so we need to think about, is there a sequence, an important sequence that we have to think about and be aware of as we roll this out, as we think about strategy? And foundation, how do we create a foundation that we can build on over time? So we need to think about, is this solid? Is it something that we can do long-term? Is it sustainable? And so on. So here are the breakout rooms that you can go to. And I'm going to hand this back over to Betsy now. And I'll stop sharing my screen. And Betsy can help us move into the next set of conversations.
Okay. After I'm done speaking, David, I'm going to ask you to put that screen back up on that slide so that people can come back to it. So I'm going to explain to you all now what we're going to be doing. We've set up 5 breakout rooms that you can elect to go to any one of them, whichever one is of the greatest interest to you. Now, we don't know how many people are going to end up in the breakout rooms. If you end up in a breakout room that there's only 1 or 2 people and you don't feel that it lends yourself to conversation, you can exit that room, come back to the main room, and then go to another room. In just a moment, Richard is going to share the breakout rooms with you, but I did post in the chat, and I asked at that chat, the link to the various Google forms that we've developed for each one of those breakout rooms. So I would ask you to think about the room you want to go to, copy that form link so that you can pull that form up, because we're going to ask for a volunteer within each group to serve as the note taker for the group. We think it'll work out best if you are talking in the group and one person is taking notes on the form. But honestly, everybody can have access to that same form. So if in the group you decide that you all want to, work on the form, you can do that yourself as well. I hope that that's clear. You'll have the room to go to. You have the form link over in the chat box. Does everyone see that in the chat box? Do you see that, David?
Yeah, that's great. We can all see that, Betsy.
Okay.
Just
We
very
need to come back. We need to come back one slide so people can see the rooms description.
Yeah, we
But
need to go back.
yeah, they're also available there in the chat function. You can see where they are. But did you
Right.
have specific people that you had wanted within those spaces as well, from kind of the steering group, or?
We didn't have enough people in the steering group to
Okay.
cover all of them. So
Mm-hmm.
those folks in the steering group, just go to the group that you want to go to, and you can volunteer to be the note taker.
Yeah,
So all you will see is a group number. So it's important that you identify the topic for that group with the room that you'll select.
Right.
And it could be that some groups will be empty. So, I believe you'll be able to move around, or I can move you. So
you can just exit the room you're in and come back and then go to another room. And we'll leave this slide up in the main room so that you can see it. But
the links are to forms, is that right? So are we going to forums, or are we going to actual virtual spaces?
You're going to the virtual space, and
okay, sorry.
In the virtual space, you will use the form and you'll talk about the questions in the form.
Okay. So I think
okay, is that understandable? Because
it is, but the links are to the forms in the chat function at the moment. So
that's right. So Richard is going to open up those breakout rooms, and now you can go to the breakout room you want to go to.
So you'll just select a number of the room that's associated with the topic of your interest.
Thank you.
So I will do that now.
So if I want to be in 2 rooms, I can be a part of one room, come out, and then go to the second room.
Yes, you
I
can.
do that?
Yes, you can.
Thank you.
Do we have a time frame for this, by the way?
I'm sure there will be some.
20 minutes is a lot.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we can divide 10 minutes. Okay.
So if you scroll down, you see the list of the rooms, and you can join any of those rooms.
Where? I can't see.
You see, it says breakout rooms in progress. Just scroll down. It starts.
Okay. Got it.
And then it lists all the rooms.
Yes.
So you can just join any of the rooms. Room number 1 is professional development. Room 2 is for the conference. Room 3 is for the journal. Room 4 for leadership and system of governance. And room 5 is the website. And we'll be checking in with the rooms so that if you have a question, we'll be showing up there. Again, if you're not seeing a particular room, scroll down, use the scroll bar on the right-hand side of the breakout rooms box, and you'll see each of the rooms, and you can join any one of them. Some people said they're in the middle of something and they're just not going to join a room. That's perfectly fine. We'll be coming back together in 20 minutes. We hope you'll join us for the end of the session.
So those in a room are in a room and not hearing us at this point. So they're doing their work. And we should be expecting some transactions in room 3 and in room 1.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the questions that people are engaged in right now. And
Right.
and in probably about 18 minutes, we'll come back.
Okay. Okay.
So do you want this slide left up? I can still leave it up.
Actually, the slide I want left up is the link, to the slide that links to the forms.
Okay.
Because those questions are on the forms. That one. Yep. Okay, I'm going to go and join a room.
Yeah, see that
I'm
they,
gonna-
very good, Betsy, do that, yeah.
I think I need to leave this the way it is just because I can't see the breakout rooms with this slide up. So I'm just going to leave that and then we'll go from there.
David, would you like to go to a room? I can slide you into a room.
I'm not sure if I can leave this slide up and get into another room. So that's I'm still sharing my screen, so I'm not sure if I can do that. That's fine. I'll just wait a little bit and try and figure out what I need to say next.
That's fine.
Well, and David, I also know that the same information is in the chat.
Oh, is it?
We might not need I can repost it again too.
Okay. Maybe I'll just
For
stop
you.
sharing then. Then I can go.
Betsy's in room 1, David. Would you like to go in room 3?
Which is room 3? How many are in room 4?
There's only two rooms occupied.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah, I guess put me in room 3 then.
okay.
Here, I can do that. I can join.
You can see to join room 3? Very good.
Does anyone else need assistance in getting into a room?
should be, I think that it should be research, absolutely, but I think it should be empirical research, because that is a lack of that, especially if you look in Europe. And I know that you are with me here, Tracy, that there is a lack of empirical research, and we really need that to go forward and to be of use for teachers. And that's I think that must be our goal. We must be the things we do, because we do this because we not want every child to have accessibility to their education. And the only way that I think that we really can have an impact of that is by doing research about how we really can make this happen in reality. And if we want to do that, we have to do empirical research. So I think if we are going to have this journal, I think a main goal is to have it very empirical and close to practice. That's my opinion.
You've just elected yourself to the editorial board, Linda.
Okay. Okay, thank you. But don't you agree with me? Isn't that?
Absolutely. I think what's out there is there's a lot of thought pieces, a lot of, as you say, there's a lot of theoretical pieces, but it's basically providing that the base for empirical research, and it doesn't have to be qualitative. I think, you know, we can, or it can be either qualitative or quantitative, and mixed methods. But I think what currently there is and narrative theory, you know, we can have all of those. We can have a range of methodological approaches. And I think things like lesson study, for example, also really, really lend themselves to lifting an empirical lid on actually what happens within the learning space. So I'm totally with you. I'd like to go back to oh, sorry. Your name is from Sierra Leone. I just she's just that point around how can we be different? How could NCLUDE be different from CAST? I think that's a really important point. And I think if you look at our values-based approaches, and very much how NCLUDE from the outset is focused on the transnational dimension. We recognize the fact that UDL, you know, has its genesis in the North America primarily, you know, in the US and in Canada. But as you've pointed out, it's very differently experienced in different cultural contexts, and that's what drives us. That's what makes us different, I think, from CAST, is that kind of recognition of the sociocultural contexts and the resource implications for that. You know, so that's at our heart. It differentiates us and it enriches us. It doesn't put us in competition with CAST. It complements the work of CAST, and I think vice versa. You know, we draw on CAST for a lot of our resources and whatever else, but we are different. You know,
Sean,
and Elif, I
speak a
suppose,
bit for
pointed to
CAST?
that just earlier. Yeah, of course, Richard. Elif, you pointed to that as well in terms of the context in Turkey earlier on. You know, so those are the types of things that we're excited about, that we're interested in, and the potential for transnational collaboration in this field, particularly in the field of research. Sorry, Richard, to speak over you there.
Let Richard talk about that, and then I would like to share my opinion on that.
Wonderful. I'll just say quickly, I'll just say, I kind of refer to CAST as the mothership of UDL. CAST is everything, and NCLUDE is not a competitor or anything contrary to CAST. Our inspiration kind of comes from the transformative nature of UDL, that UDL is a paradigm shift in the way we think about human differences. So what NCLUDE would do would be all local. People from all over the world have local challenges, but they'll be inspired by the vision of inclusive education for all. So I don't see us competing or departing from or anything more than being inspired by CAST. And hopefully CAST will just continue to give us a lot of credit for our efforts.
Mhm.
That somebody else wanted to say something.
Yeah, may I speak?
Please do.
Yeah, first of all, I do apologize. I have a severe chronic disease, a rare disease. That's why I'm in bed right now. I do apologize for that, first of all. Let me introduce myself first. Actually, I am a former CAST intern based in Houston in the United States. And I'm from originally Turkey. The earthquake hit, you know. So it is very good timing that you are having this meeting. It is very meaningful, especially for me, because I was working on a project and looking for collaborations and like folks who can be interested in that, because it is a universal project. And I would like to say, first of all, that as a former CAST intern who is not an American citizen, I can say that CAST is a wonderful world and full of wonderful people supporting international entrepreneurships. And they are ready there for you as much as they can, but they cannot, of course, control everything because this is a US-based nonprofit organization. For example, they are supporting me still after like more than 1 year. I left CAST because my work, I didn't have a work permit. After that, I couldn't work there. So they are still supporting me in my opinions, in my entrepreneurships in Turkey, because I'm trying to spread UDL in Turkey right now. And it is the exact needed time in Turkey, Syria, and in that geography that it needs UDL badly. It is in the real world badly because we have lost so many lives and there are so many displaced people, more displaced people than the number of people from Syria, because the number of people who were displaced from Syria moved to Turkey. This earthquake hit all of us, Syria plus Turkey, plus displaced people who were immigrants in Turkey. Gaziantep is the city where the earthquake hit. It is the center, and it is the center in the world where Syrian refugees are organized. So imagine
excuse me, this it's terrible what's happened in Syria and in Turkey and these
this is terrible.
global catastrophes. But I would just like to offer to you that you can find more support from global colleagues in NCLUDE than I think you can in Massachusetts through CAST. So I think
Actually,
to be part of this collaboratory and to seek support and guidance and inspiration from what people are doing in different parts of the world would really be in your interest. And
Yeah.
I think this group is this topic right here is about the journal. So what would you want to find in a journal that would inspire or direct or guide you in your work in Turkey? I think that's to the point.
Yeah, I'm sorry if it sounded not to the point, but I wanted to say that there are a lot of issues in the world, top 3 UN issues, right? One of them is environmental crisis, the other is education crisis, the other is immigration crisis. It is not specific to Turkey or Syria, but it is affecting the whole world, right? So I'm trying to spread UDL in Turkey, and at the same time, I am very interested in research and publications internationally. What I'm trying to say is that if an there is a barrier in caste. This is, for example, let me explain it in other words. For example, I want to contribute to research in CAST. I want to contribute to publications in CAST too, but I don't have a work permit and any other thing. There are many people like that who want to contribute to UDL, but they need an international collaboration like NCLUDE so that we can publish books and articles and case studies, any kind of publications, I mean. That was the point I was trying to come to. I'm so sorry.
I think you're speaking to the choir.
Yes.
Yes.
One of the things that I've mentioned there in the chat, Richard, is that it would be good to have a list of people who have come along even to this group, you know, in terms of kind of interested in the formation of the journal and the development of the journal. Oh, so we have a list of names. That's great. Okay, thank you. So that's we can copy that, eh?
I think this is saying that we're going to be bounced back into the
Oh,
main
is it?
room. Yeah,
All right,
but I
okay.
think that's a good point, Sean, that
Just bear with me.
we-
I'm going to take a screenshot, hopefully, of
but we have all this
that.
information. Yeah, that's the group people that were in today's attendance. But I
well,
think
just
that-
for this breakout group as well.
yes. All right.
Looks like we're going to be getting back.
We should be all back now, Betsy.
Okay. As always with these discussions, we allowed 20 minutes and we probably could have used 40 minutes. I think, even with this, with a reasonable number of people. But I know I was in the professional development session, and we had a lot of really excellent thoughts that were shared in that session, and I did take some notes on that session, and I think I'm just going to go and I'd like to share a few of the ideas. Would that be a good thing to do now, David?
Yeah. Let me just try and
so you're still, if people are still hearing me.
You're fine, Betsy, and you can share your thoughts verbally, or I don't know if David was going to enter them on his slide. I don't know. David, what?
No, Betsy was going to put something up. I think the form that she took notes on. So
I can do that.
Excellent.
Okay, so I have that form queued up. And here it is. So they can see the form here. Yeah, we had, I don't know, maybe about eight people in our session. And I joined late, and I was volunteered to take notes. So you can see that we really only got to the first two sections of the form, but that was okay. We just tried to capture the ideas. So Judy started it off talking about, how to move forward to really support this worldwide movement. And one of the ways that they've worked with, I know at UCT, is redesigning blended courses that are open to all and focused on social justice and available through the internet. And I know I'm involved in that project as well. And then a colleague was talking about the different webinars that they had for training staff to redesign courses in UDL. So first we started talking about a few of the things that exist. We also discussed the challenge, the big challenge is how to really reach out and to get to more teaching staff and how to explore some of the social media opportunities and to link to these social justice issues. So those were a few of the things that we identified. But the second part of our discussion really, looked at some of the issues that come up. And one of them is that, and I know, Mary, I'd invite you to perhaps talk about this. I know that this was your, a point that I came in on where you were discussing this issue of lack of resources and a few other things. So Mary, if you'd like to unmute your microphone and share about, what you talked about in the session,
Right.
that would be wonderful.
Thank you. So what I was saying is I'm over here at a college in the United States. It's a small liberal arts university, and probably many are aware that many of our colleges at the moment, we're facing lower enrollments. We're coming off the pandemic. Programs are being cut. We have limited staff. Our faculty have taken on more course loads. And so part of the issue is staffing and resources at a time where we really need, I believe, this framework and this mindset to really create those equitable, inclusive spaces for the diversity in our classrooms. We are hindered by these roadblocks that really relate to dollars and funding and resources and staffing to do this work. So it's part of what drew me to this group, this idea that there could be something collaborative that could make this content knowledge available to faculty.
Mhm. Great, thanks so much. And then we had a number of other, very insightful comments that how another individual in our group talked about, the issue of how we can embed these trainings in actual actions and systems. And of course, all of us who've worked with curriculum development know that that's the biggest challenge is then, you provide the model and the training and everything like that, but then how do you move to the next step of implementation? And that's what we were really talking about is the implementation at the ground level. And I know Sujata Ban, who I've worked with, shared about what their challenges were in India. I was involved with the training that with the colleague to provide some free professional development training for them, but then the follow-up training that was available through other entities was extremely expensive. And so now they're at a point where they know what they want to do, they know where they want to go, but they haven't been able to find the support for moving to that ground level, more in-depth training. So that really is something that I think we need to talk about and find a way to move forward with NCLUDE is that, on the ground implementation of these ideas. The world, there was a comment mentioned that UDL has been around for 20 years. Yes, it has. It has been part of what we've been doing, and we need to move to the next step. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and give an opportunity to move to the next group there. And if someone who was in the other group, I think it was the journal group, if you could share an essence of your discussion, that would be great.
Yeah, I don't mind jumping in here, Betsy, and I'll share very briefly. We didn't have as comprehensive or as targeted a review, but I really, perhaps because we didn't have those core questions and keep to those core questions, but I think that those would be really helpful to disseminate those. We've captured who the individuals do. Again, like that, there were about 8 participants in that particular group, in the journal group. What comes across is a sense of enthusiasm, a sense that this is absolutely necessary. Linda was emphatic about this, about the necessity for empirical based research. Herself and Tracy Galvin have been doing some work in the European context and have identified that most of the pieces that are available are think pieces, but there is a growing development, and I've seen some of the journals coming out from Ireland and in relation to higher education, where there are much more empirical approaches being adopted. So just in brief, a lot of enthusiasm. We have a list of the participants themselves, and what we'll do is come back to them. But what I think we would like to do is to open this out to everybody who was here in, this afternoon to actually see if they'd be interested in participating, because I think whilst we can only be in one room at one time, as you pointed out earlier on, Betsy, I think there's people have different passions and different ideas and different spaces that they would have liked to have been in. And I'll just put that shout out to anybody who's left here this afternoon, that you're very, very welcome to become involved. And I've given my direct contact details in the chat function as well, if anybody wants to contact me to learn further about this. And we're talking about something that's, I'm hoping, fairly imminent within the next few months in terms of the launch. The journal itself has been made available by the Department for Education in Morocco, and I think that's great. I think that element of diversification and different agents in this context